Hey everyone, it's Bree here at Blossom and Branch Farm, and today we're going to be talking about some of the changes that we are making here at our farm, both in Colorado and our Minnesota farm. Some things that are we're pivoting with this year based on all kinds of things, from weather to market expectations to what our customers do and don't like. So today, that's what we're going to get into. Let's go. So for those of you who are new here, I actually have two farms. One is here in Colorado, and it's just under 2 acres. It's a flower farm, cut flowers. The reason that it's small is because most cut flowers are harvested, planted by hand. They're maintained by hand, so small is key. And once you start scaling up, you have to hire a lot of staff to help maintain it. So I'm able to maintain the farm here in Colorado pretty much by myself. I do have 2 farm hands. One is Savannah. 6 years she's been with me now. She's instrumental. She's like my right-hand gal. She knows the ins and outs of everything here at the farm. She's a preschool teacher during the year, so it works for her to be a seasonal employee. I also have a second employee. Her name is Dawn, and she also started with me 5 years ago. They usually do during the growing season, about 6 hours a week, and the rest is pretty much me. And then we also have our farm in Minnesota. That's my family farm. So I am actually the 5th generation farmer out there in Minnesota, and it's 200 acres. Mostly corn and soybeans, at least for the last 40 years or so. And my dad actually moved off the farm in 1976, decided he did not want to be a farmer, and then my grandpa got very sick and had to sell off all of our cows. So since then, it's actually been under control of tenant farmers. And this last year, my dad and I took over 15 acres of that and kind of started farming it very differently, tweaking a lot of stuff out there. So there are also some changes that we are making this year for that farm, potentially based on kind of some market stuff. Here in Colorado, my farm mostly is retail. A lot of flower farms will sell wholesale, so they'll sell to florists, they'll sell to other wholesale florist companies who then sell to florists. So typically when you're growing a lot of things, a lot of one thing, so say you grow a lot of sunflowers, maybe you can't sell 500 sunflowers at once retail, but you can sell those to a florist or to a wholesaler. So a lot of flower farmers do it that way. Here at my farm, because we are small and also because we are fairly suburban, which means we're only about 15 minutes from downtown Denver. It's a very unique space, not many large properties at this part of town. So it's nice because it's actually easy for a lot of people to get to our farm. So for retail, our farm is actually very, very accessible. So what we do instead is we used to do an on-farm market where we would make the bouquets and sell them. We've actually found that people love being here at the farm and they love cutting their own flowers. So as much as people have loved doing bouquets, and sometimes we'll still do custom bouquet orders, especially for people who are regular customers like most of ours are. But most of the time now what we're doing is U-Picks. So on the weekends, we sell tickets for U-Picks. People bring their own jars. They come and they harvest flowers, and it's more of a community building experience. It's more of a, fun, it's become kind of a Saturday morning, Sunday morning ritual for a lot of people who come, and they can kind of sit in the field, we have various seating areas around, they can sip their coffee, they can have their kids come and watch the sheep, or, they'll just run around through the woods and play. That's been a really great way both to kind of grow our community, and also it's really nice for us as farm employees because we used to have to harvest all those flowers and then make those bouquets and assemble those bouquets and then sell those bouquets, whereas for U-Picks, people harvest them themselves. So it saves us work. Now there is a downside of U-Picks, which is that usually most people who are just coming off the street don't know how to necessarily pick their own flowers. So often they'll cut them too high, or maybe they'll cut them at the wrong stage. So we try to give everybody kind of a brief tutorial and a talk and a walkthrough before they start picking. But it actually seems to work out pretty well. We haven't ever had any major issues with the U-Pick format. So we're definitely doing that again. We are starting weddings back up again. The reason we stopped doing very customized weddings where, people would write to us and say like, oh, my colors are pink and very specific shade of pink. And we stopped doing those weddings because unfortunately, what we grow is very weather dependent. It's very, sometimes a shade of white can change based on the temperature. We can't be that specific, and I don't want to be buying flowers in from somewhere else. Usually if I'm doing a wedding, I'm saying, okay, we grew them, we harvested them, your farmer, that's what people are looking for. So what we started doing is kind of 2 options. So we'll do like a color palette that's all kind of whites and greens and neutrals, or we'll do a very colorful palette. And then from there, people just give us artistic freedom. So which is really fun for us actually, because we do kind of talk to our brides still and see if they have anything in mind, but it's fun for us to be creative, and it's also fun for the brides because they're always beautiful. No one has ever complained about like, oh, I didn't like the color palette or whatever it was that you picked. And you know, it's very seasonal. So, but it's a very specific type of bride who wants that. Usually they're smaller weddings, they're just more casual. So a lot of the weddings we're doing now, it's just kind of a couple bouquets, usually a couple boutonnieres, maybe a couple of buckets of flowers so they can decorate or do whatever they want with them. It fills in a lot of the gaps in the off seasons for us. So times like June, when we don't have a ton of flowers yet, maybe not enough to do a U-pick, but we do have enough maybe to do some weddings. So it's a nice gap filler for us here at the farm. We are also doing more workshops this year, which I'm really excited about. So workshops, usually what I do is I do a couple different formats. Usually it's flower focused. So we'll do a workshop in the spring around peonies, peony harvest. Then we'll do an arrangement with peonies. We'll talk about kind of how to put your peonies in a vase and form and flow and those kinds of things. And then everyone makes one and takes it home. We also do one for the dahlias in the late summer. And then in between there, we do various workshops. So all kinds of different topics, all kinds of different things on gardening, cover cropping. You guys know I've been running workshops in Paris, both for garden tours. We have one in April, but it's sold out. I've been doing some kind of down a little bit more central France for more gardening style workshops. And many of you have been asking if we can do one here in the States. So in April, we're doing an on-farm here at Blossom and Branch workshop where it's a 3-day immersive, all meals are farm to table here at the farm. We're doing things like cover cropping, dividing, propagating, soil blocking, cover cropping, all kinds of different topics. And then I have one more in France actually that's not sold out that will be taking place in September at a beautiful chateau down near Limoges that I've been to and is phenomenal and gorgeous. And the one in September in Limoges, guys, is going to have not only gardening, but they're also going to have wine tasting, beekeeping, some animal husbandry, beer making, cheese making type workshops along with the gardening. So anyway, if you want to find out about all of that stuff, I'll put the link down below to sign up for our newsletter so that you can be kept informed of all of that. So that's kind of what we're doing from the business side of things. I have just learned over the years that there are certain things I really, really like to do, and there's certain things I really don't like to do as a flower farm. I hate doing farmers markets. To me, they're terrible. I hate sitting out there in the heat with the flowers sitting on the blacktop, and then they get all wilty, and then people aren't happy when they take them home because they are all floppy. It's just something that, again, we have just figure it out as a business, does not work for us. In terms of timing and kind of gardening and seed starting, we're also making some adjustments based mostly on our weather. So like probably most of you who are kind of in the southwestern part of the US, it's been a very warm and dry winter for us so far. I think it's our warmest winter on record. It was 60 degrees today in January. Our soil hasn't even frozen. So based on that, I'm adjusting all of my seed starting timing 2 weeks earlier. This might seem a little bit dramatic, and it probably is, but because I have all of these hoops and things, I can always tunnel things if I need to. But usually by now our soil will be frozen. Usually by now we will be having lots of snowfall, which we haven't been having. So again, looking ahead into the forecast for our spring and just kind of having done this for several years, watching weather trends, it's just what I'm predicting is that our last frost typically would be mid-May. I'm anticipating it's going to be early May. So again, adjusting everything 1 to 2 weeks ahead of time on seed starting. I'm also growing a lot more drought tolerant things. Like I mentioned, we haven't really had any snowfall. So I'm bumping up how much is in my field that can withstand lack of water. I'm anticipating probably here in Colorado, we have many, many water issues. Even though I have a ditch and we have some agricultural water rights, they can shut that off at any time at their discretion. So what I'm anticipating is that we're going to have to be dialing back our water. So I'm growing things like more yarrow, more echinacea, more rudbeckia, more hummingbird mint. So things that even if we don't get a lot of water, will still bloom and will also still survive. This is my entire field, and every year what I do is I go through and I kind of look at, okay, so last year I had an entire row of snapdragons, which means about, 600 snapdragons or so. And maybe I felt like that was too much, or maybe I felt like it wasn't enough. And then I can just kind of swap and pull things in and pop things in depending on each year. So some of the things that I'm doing this year is actually we had 2 full rows here that were golden currants. And the reason I have the golden currants in the field is because one, they're a great wind block, but number two, it's wonderful for attracting birds into my space. So the golden currants, the birds love those. The more of that kind of habitat and bird producing plants we can have in the field, the more birds we have in the field, the less pest problems we have. But I had 2 rows, and 2 rows was just quite frankly too much. They're quite large shrubs, and they were taking up a lot of real estate, and we have so many choke cherries and American plums right next to the field. So I figured we could pull one of these rows out. So I'm actually gonna be swapping in a lot of those native drought tolerant things that I mentioned. So things like those goldenrods, those native sunflowers, rudbeckia, lacy phacelia, and the yarrow. Another thing I'm doing in terms of field plan is I mentioned we have workshops in the spring with our peonies. So one of the problems that I often have is that we have not a lot of filler blooming at that time that our peonies are growing. So I'm experimenting with starting some earlier stuff this year. We are going to be really pushing the limits on how early we can plant a lot of our frost tolerant seedlings, like our snapdragons, our annual phlox, our feverfew, our orlia. All of those things are very frost tolerant. We're gonna see if we can really harden those off and push the limits on how early we can plant those, so that hopefully, oh, and lacy phacelia, which I love. Lacy phacelia is a really great, very, very cold tolerant early bloomer. So what we're trying to do is get a lot of other stuff blooming at the same time as those peonies and our baptisia and our clematis, because usually we have all of those kind of early perennials going, but it's tricky here getting those early annuals blooming at the same time that really can bulk up those vases. So we're gonna be working on trying to get some more early blooms. In terms of projects and things I'm working on around the farm, I'm converting the main beds around the greenhouse, which are typically my kind of garden vegetable production areas. We have a lot of perennial things in there, like our asparagus. I usually grow potatoes and tomatoes, kind of like a potager style. The problem is I planted it, and then I planted a native prairie meadow right next to it. And so what's happening is I'm getting a lot of those meadow grasses growing into my garden space. And also it's just a little bit, it seems ridiculous to say because it's not that far from my house. It's maybe like 50 yards, but I want it closer to my house. I want that kind of little potager area to be right off my back steps so that I can just quickly from the kitchen run out and grab something. So I'm going to kind of relocate a garden. So I'm going to relocate that kind of garden around the greenhouse, convert more of that into native meadow space, and then I'm going to actually build a new potager up next to the house. So it's probably going to be a little bit more formal, a little bit more shaped beds. I'm going to play a little bit with scale out there. And then also I'm going to be putting a little pond up there. So it's all going to be DIY. All right, so that's it kind of for things that I'm adjusting this year on the farm. So if any of those projects sound interesting to you, make sure you're subscribed so that you can kind of stay abreast of things that we are going to be planning, that we're going to be doing together. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video, and if you didn't, please don't tell me that because it'll crush my soul. Okay, love you guys. Bye.